Hey, this is Chris DeSantis coming to you from my hotel room here at I'm attending the Futures Championship in Geneva, Ohio, and I want to talk a little bit about an insight I've had into the nature of the mind and sport performance. And this is a bit of a melding of my two greatest areas of interest, and that is history and psychology. And so, what I want to posit to you, and I posit this because I would like you, whoever's listening to this, to be able to use this knowledge to apply greater empathy to the people around you who are involved in trying to achieve a high level of performance, and whatever that might be, they're trying to achieve that high level performance in. And the insight that I'm going to share with you is that the mind, the human mind, was designed for survival and not performance. And I'll get into a little bit of what I mean by that, and then some of the implications that we come up to, specifically in the area of sport performance, because that is the area where I find myself doing the most work. So, what do I mean by that? Well, on a basic sort of evolutionary historical level, okay, what has caused humanity to thrive and sort of become the apex species, one factor of the world, is that we have really good survival instincts. Okay, we have been able to adapt to a lot of environments, to adapt environments to ourselves, to make it easier for us to survive. And so, if we look back in history, it's much easier to survive now than it was 100 years ago. And 100 years ago was much easier to survive than it was 100 years before that, and so on and so on and so on. We've been incredibly effective at setting up the world for survival. However, many of the things that you do instinctually to survive are not things that are going to encourage a high level of performance. And once you understand that, I think it's going to make a lot more sense the way, specifically, I'm speaking to an audience of coaches here, specifically the way that you see athletes that you coach and their mental makeup around trying to achieve a high level of performance. Because I see so many coaches that are incredibly, at moments, frustrated with, um, maybe even on behalf, if I'm being very generous, on behalf of athletes that they coach, because they see somebody who is investing a lot of time, they're investing a lot of effort, and yet, maybe like I witnessed this today at this meet. I had a swimmer, like she walked up to her coach. This wasn't a swimmer on my team. It was a swimmer on another team walking up to a different team's coach, and she said, honestly, I'd just be happy if I got close to my best time, because I haven't gone my best time in a couple of years. And I could see the coach's face fall, because in his mind, here was an athlete that was sort of conceding defeat before the race even began. And I understand that frustration, right? Nobody wants to hear that from somebody they're coaching right before. So particularly if you as a coach believe that the person can do a lot better than that. And as coaches, habitually, we are people who believe in the highest level of performance people can achieve. We can see it. That's one of our superpowers as coaches. We can see the highest level of performance that somebody can achieve. And so when we see them start to talk themselves out of it, it's incredibly frustrating for us. But here's what I'll say to you, okay? Understand that when you're trying to change some of that wiring, when you're trying to influence the thought process of somebody that you're coaching, that you are working against all of human evolution in terms of that mind, okay? The human mind is built for, like I said at the beginning, it's built for survival, okay? It's built for survival. It's not built for performance. It looks to avoid danger, right? That's key to survival, and that's been key to survival for most of human history. Just avoid the stuff that kills you, and you will procreate and live a reasonable lifespan for whatever era you're born in, right? So avoid the stuff that kills you, okay? Look for consistency, look for sustainability. Nothing about high performance is consistent or sustainable. It's not. And it's in your mind's code, it's dangerous, okay? You have to imagine that when you're getting up to do, the greatest performance of your life, and you're going to, for instance, in the swimming context, you're going to go and maximize, use as many of your bodily resources, okay, to achieve a high level of performance. Your mind doesn't want to do that, because that's stupid from a survival standpoint. It is stupid to do something where you'll be so exhausted and so completely burnt by the end of it that you'll be essentially completely defenseless. If you actually marshal enough resources to pour everything you have into an effort, and in fact, if you really can marshal everything that you have, even from a micro, like in a meat perspective, where maybe you have to race 9 times, it's not smart to actually pour everything else. So I would estimate that everybody that we coach is putting some percentage of 100% of what they can actually put into any given race. Now we'd like to nudge that number up in the micro context, because we're watching them swim a race and we want them to do better and better. But in a macro context, understand why they have a natural pull against that. Essentially, what situation you're putting athletes in when you're trying to push them to their highest level of performance is, you're asking them, like, let's say they can easily jump 6 feet straight out, right? Okay, well, put them in a situation like you might be more analogous to a practice, where you ask them, oh, just keep jumping 6 feet back and forth, and oh yeah, we're going to have this 5-foot deep hole underneath you. So it's going to hurt a little bit if you fall, but you'll be able to pick yourself up and keep going, right? And essentially what we're doing when we get to a big competition is we're going, in many cases, hey, I think you can probably jump 11 feet, and by the way, the pit is 20 feet deep. So it's going to hurt a lot. But don't worry, don't be so nervous about what you're doing. Relax, because that's a level of emotional danger, and that's the amount of danger that their mind perceives in what they're doing. They think they're about to try something really, really risky, and so from an evolutionary standpoint, from a survival standpoint, their brain is going to try to talk them out of it. And it's going to look something like scaling back expectations, getting extremely nervous, and in fact, going beyond being nervous, right, and getting into that really, really pessimistic mindset where you start thinking about everything that can go wrong. That is your mind trying to survive. So, one of the things I do as a coach is I educate athletes about this. Because from their perspective, right, they may have never experienced that level of stress on their performance to the extent that their mind starts to talk them out of it, right? So they are freaking out on another level because all of a sudden their mind is doing something that they're not expecting. And there you may be on the other end compounding that stress by saying, stop doing that. Stop doing that. Come on. Be positive about what you're doing, right? And all of a sudden there's like this adult authority figure who's yelling at them or making their emotional stress ramp up and up. Instead, take a chance to educate them. I tell athletes all the time that are getting nervous before a race, I say, you're very close to doing something amazing, and your brain's going to try to talk you out of it. Okay? So I'm actually letting them know that what's happening to them, that track that they won't be able to turn off, no matter who you are, I don't care. You can't just turn it off. And the harder you try to turn it off, the worse it'll get. So don't. That track in your head, that's normal. That actually means that you invested enough in what you're about to do, that the stakes are high enough, that your mind is trying to talk you out of it. That's my insight for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed this little snip while I was up at the meet. Listen, of course, as always, for more stuff like this. If you want to know more about that and some of the applications you can have, reach out, contact me. You can fill out a form at christycoach.com, and I'll talk to you soon.